Let's discuss what's happening inside Iran. First, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said Donald Trump will eliminate Iran's Ayatollahs. The senator is issuing warnings while these protests are happening in Iran. By the way, the second most important city in Iran has fallen at this moment. In response to the protests, the Republican senator publicly warned that if the Ayatollahs continue eliminating protesters, shooting them, President Trump is going to eliminate them, suggesting that he could use lethal force against the very leaders of the regime. Graham made these explosive statements on the Sean Hannity show on Fox News, reinforcing the message of support for the Iranians who are protesting against this theocratic government. "We are with you tonight," says Graham to the Iranian people, calling Ayatollah Khamenei a religious Nazi and blaming him for killing his own people. The country is going through a new wave of large-scale demonstrations fueled by economic collapse, international issues, and popular discontent that has been going on for decades. And right now, these demonstrations are being reported, which have been the largest in Bojorn. That's what they're saying tonight. Well, by today, the city would already be in the protesters' hands. What is happening in the face of these intense protests, and what is expected to happen right now? There's a very curious reaction from the Iranian president who sends a message, what? Against the police? I mean, giving them an order according to him that they can't be shooting at people. Meanwhile, Iran is seeing the highest number of protests. What's happening? This guy comes out, who's a member of the Basij. Yes, and according to what he reports, he says the following. Let's just listen, even though it's in Farsi, but let's listen.
Subscribe to the channel. Secure this character.
Basij, which is the paramilitary force of the Iranians, a volunteer paramilitary force over there in that country, in which, well, it is part of or is subordinated to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, that is, to the army of the Ayatollah. According to what the Basij report, officially also known as Niruye Mokmamate Basij, that's the official name, it is a volunteer paramilitary force formed since 1979 by the Ayatollahs by order of Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini. In November 1979, these forces appeared. What were they told? Were they ordered to shoot at the population? That was the order. According to what this person is revealing, obviously hiding their face and also hiding the name they have on the record, the registration number they have there on their jacket. He says that he and others have refused to shoot at the population, showing then that this is the message he's putting out there. Pezeshkian himself, who is the Iranian president, gave an order to the police not to shoot at the people. Well, then clearly that would be false. According to what is known at this moment, the biggest day of protests over there in Iran, there are some details that I think we need to consider to understand the level of the problem. And that's why this congressman basically comes out to say, well, the Ayatollahs are about to disappear, right? What's going on? Well, according to the latest information, the most intense day has been today, January 7, 2026, which was described by the Human Rights Group or the groups that are there as the most violent day of protests since the beginning of the movement against the government. Against the protests themselves, the police not only fired tear gas, but were also attacking. There have also been reports of more uprisings, clashes, and even strikes at this moment. According to Iran, there are now 36 people who have lost their lives. Of the 36 confirmed, at least 4 are minors. Currently, 2,000 people are detained. This would have started more forcefully on December 28th. It began with labor protests on the 21st, but by the 28th, they had escalated significantly. Just count how many days the protests have lasted. The reports also indicate that injured protesters who go to the hospital are taken away by security forces even while wounded and are locked up. It's being talked about. as reported by the United States Department of State. They described these attacks on hospitals as savagery, according to what Lizzie reports. Graham and other Republican leaders are demanding real consequences against the leaders of the Ayatollah's regime. The Iranian government announced a monthly subsidy yesterday. We mentioned it here yesterday, of $7. If for people this isn't enough for absolutely anything, that subsidy is an insult to the protests that are happening right now. Are Iranians on high alert right now and facing the idea that what they're experiencing is existential? For them right now, it's existential in the sense that they know the next move will probably be their last move. That's why we need to be careful with Iran now. We have to remember a few minutes ago we uploaded a recorded report here to the channel where I mentioned to you that the Russians are leaving Iran. And also from Israel. They are leaving. There are already 3 planes from Israel that have left with Russian families and diplomats from Israel. In the case of Australians and other countries, they have also requested that everyone leave Iran immediately, including diplomats, families, and so on. And the Iranian armed forces, including the Revolutionary Guard and the regular army, have been put on the highest level of operational readiness. After what is happening right now, and after what is happening with threats like the one from Lindsey Graham, this Republican, President Trump warned that Iran will face harsher consequences if it keeps brutally suppressing protests. I won't even get started on the Iranian economy. It's a very serious situation. Inflation has skyrocketed even more. The shortage of products is also getting worse, and this is causing more problems. The Supreme Leader himself hasn't appeared publicly, but he sends little messages. He accused the protesters of being the ones causing the destabilization and stated that the troublemakers must be put in their place. Nothing more has been heard from him since then. Also right now, General Morteza Gorbani declared that more than 400 units are ready to wipe any aggressor off the map, including Israel. That's what they say. If the red line is crossed, meaning if there are movements that make it certain, at the same time as the protests, Iran could start an international conflict. I insist, it's existential. The next move they make will be to try to survive this crisis they're going through, and this shows that they're desperate. But let's move on to other information. We'll be right back with several things that are happening in the Middle East. What's happening in Yemen is unbelievable, because right now, the south of Yemen is in chaos. We'll talk in a moment about why there are attacks. There's now an international conflict in the south of Yemen. We'll talk in a moment about what's happening. Let's just go to a tremendous situation that's happening right now in Europe. Let's go to that. In Europe, things are, well, in some areas, everything is paralyzed. And this is because there's been so much snow that they've had to force closures, cancel flights, and shut down roads. It's basically paralyzed France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, and Hungary in different areas. Let's get into the details of what's happening in this region of the world. But the snowfall has been heavy, and what's coming next, right? The accumulation of snow and rain for the next few days will also be intense. What we're seeing is that it's actually good, since this is a typical January phenomenon in the sense that intense snowstorms are starting. Let's get into the details of what's been happening. Look, here's the beginning. It's not just about the snow. There have also been massive cancellations. So far, 700 flights have been cancelled. Some cities are isolated in certain areas, and transportation has collapsed in Hungary, the Netherlands, France, and Italy, according to reports. The intense snow front with strong winds has been hitting much of Central and Eastern Europe for several hours now. It is affecting millions of people right now and having a severe impact on air, land, and rail transportation. For example, Amsterdam Airport and Snippet would have cancelled 700 flights at that airport alone, plus more elsewhere. France and Paris airports have already suspended over 100 flights. In Brussels, 40 cancellations and many delays or future cancellations have been reported, including some tomorrow. The trains connecting Paris with Brussels and Amsterdam are completely out of service. Buses in Paris have also been suspended for security reasons. The French authorities have asked people to avoid traveling and to choose teleworking. In several areas where there is snowfall, cars have been stranded or towns are currently cut off. In Germany, heavy snowfall has been reported. Berlin streets are covered in snow, making mobility difficult, according to German media. In Italy, schools and roads are closed and rivers are overflowing, while in Serbia and Bosnia, thousands lack electricity or phone service. The A1 highway, these are highways that are between Croatia and Hungary, and there have been flight cancellations, highways closed that were blocked, at least temporarily. Lisferet Airport in Budapest cancelled multiple international flights, according to the report. And well, the United Kingdom also suspended classes. It is warned that the snowfall could continue until the weekend. Obviously, it's affecting all regions, mainly in Northern Europe, which is where this phenomenon is hitting the hardest. It's not just snow, there have also been rains further south. The total closure of Vernik Airport in Slovenia? The runways are completely covered in ice, while many roads in the country are considered impassable at this time. Authorities in Hungary, for example, say that snow levels this high haven't been recorded since 2012. By the way, hundreds of people have been reported injured there due to falling ice. It's an issue that I've only seen in Hungary so far. The region's meteorological services warn that the storm will continue for at least 48 more hours, with worsening ice on the roads in cities that are currently blocked. So, we need to be patient. At least 2 more days of quite intense storms with possible blackouts and a lack of some basic services. That's why I know. The authorities are urging people to take extra precautions and avoid unnecessary travel at this time, in much of that part of the world, not in Europe. So, well, that's how things are, that's it. Meanwhile, here in the northeast of Mexico where we are, well, life goes on for now. A winter that's not a mix between winter and summer. Very curious, in which, well, we almost haven't even needed a sweater to go out. Temperatures will likely start dropping tomorrow or the next day. We'll talk more about that here later on, but let's move on to other important matters happening around the world. Do you remember this guy? He was the one who attacked Brown University and also a scientist from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Do you remember that too? Is he a scientist? And well, now it's known that he left a video in which he admits his crimes, and not only does he admit them, but he also says he doesn't regret them. An obviously terrible situation. Claudio Neves Valente recorded a series of videos before taking his own life, in which he admits that he was the one who attacked at Brown University and at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He reveals that he planned it for years, and at no point does he explain his motives. The Brown University shooter and Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor's killer, Claudio Neves Valente, recorded a video confession before ending his life. Valente, 48 years old, a Portuguese citizen and former Brown student, was found dead in the New Hampshire warehouse. The authorities confirmed that he took his own life after carrying out the attacks. This happened on December 13, 2025, leaving 2 students dead. These 2 students stayed in the storehouse. Leaving students in the storehouse for 6 semesters. I mean, for years, but never. Did he clarify why he shot specifically those people? In the videos, he denies being mentally ill, he denies seeking fame. He didn't want to write any manifesto. He said he just wanted to go out on his own terms and that at least something was done, but something about what? What does he mean by that? Yes. He flatly denied shouting Allahu Akbar or anything like that, saying it has nothing to do with him and that he doesn't even speak Arabic. I mean, he said what? Well, his goal wasn't to attack an auditorium, but rather he mentions that his goal was to attack a classroom, not an auditorium. Apparently, he was surprised to find an empty place, not knowing that the students were hiding under their desks. I'm not going to apologize, he says. During my life, no one ever apologized to me, honestly, he said. One of the videos also revealed that he injured his eye during the shooting. He acknowledged that after the images were released and suggested that Reed says that it should be investigated. Huh? Well, what had happened apparently, and it was key for this attacker to be recognized in the videos that were published. The Department of Justice also confirmed that Valente was the one and knew the professor who eliminated another professor, also Portuguese. Key in the matter of the diffusion of information for the authorities. They stated that there is no evidence that at any point he showed that he was a danger. At no point was it known that he was a risk. And up to now, until today, it is not known. His motivations, is this story really that crazy? But anyway, let's move on to other important topics as well. Look, these are helicopters from the United States Delta Special Forces, which you are now seeing flying over Iraq, according to reports. According to what they say, And that, since yesterday, it's been circulating that the United States Delta Forces are, Well, moving within the border or near the border over there between Iraq and Iran. This apparently is to go against the pro-Iranian forces in the area. They have been asked to lay down their weapons, but they haven't wanted to do so. But let's go over several details about what's happening right now in the world, in that region of the Middle East. Because there is chaos in the south of Yemen, which already has a conflict, there are already attacks that are called preventive attacks by neighboring countries right there, right? What's happening in Yemen? First of all, the coalition led by Saudi Arabia has reportedly confirmed that they have launched limited preventive attacks in Yemen today, January 7th. Let's see, this is Yemen, right? Here it is, and here is Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. On this side, this time, Saudi Arabia, its northern neighbor with which it shares a huge border, would be the one that started these movements. The coalition. The attack was confirmed. This, according to reports, the target was political and military, against the separatist leader Haidos al-Zawidi, who, according to reports, had tried to expand the conflict to a region further north. In Al-Del, after avoiding boarding the plane to Saudi Arabia for peace talks, he is believed to have fled to an unknown location, creating uncertainty about his whereabouts and his next move. And when they got nervous, they started launching these attacks, which they say are preventive, already in December. Here, I told you how the separatists took over large areas of territory in Yemen, especially in the strategic province of Adrawat. Yes, this area that directly borders Saudi Arabia and made that country nervous. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates were once allies against the Houthis, who are backed by Iran. Now they support opposing factions. The United Arab Emirates supports some, Saudi Arabia supports others, and they are fighting. There is a possible upcoming war between Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The new wave of attacks is happening in the context of growing chaos inside Yemen. On one side are the Houthis, on the other, the constitutional government. So it's really intense. The Saudi coalition stated that it is working together with the government of Yemen and local authorities to maintain order and security in the affected regions. There are no official civilian casualty figures yet, but what is actually happening? What chaos are they referring to? First, the disappearance of Aidar Aus al-Zabaidi, leader of the Southern Transitional Council. This disappearance has triggered a serious security crisis. The National Shield Forces, supported by Saudi Arabia, are aggressively deploying toward Aden to regain government control over key routes and strategic facilities. Also, according to reports, these peace talks have been cancelled at this time. And that's why this escalated very quickly. The Presidential Council of Yemen officially dismissed Azabaidi and reported him to the prosecutor's office, accusing him of inciting armed rebellion and attacking institutions. There is a rebellion. Amid the existing rebellions, another one arises. And this, well, obviously is tremendous. And what happens when Zabaidi disappears? Well, it creates another scenario where there's another power vacuum that who knows why won't be filled. That's how things are in Yemen right now, honestly. It's unbelievable. I hope. Let me tell you what's happening in other also important matters. According to what is being warned, and here we see this man named James Story, former United States ambassador to Venezuela, James Story. He claims that right now Diosdado Cabello is the main saboteur of Delcy Rodriguez's government. Is there an internal war inside Venezuela? Pay attention to that topic, because this is where the interesting part of this whole situation comes in. And we'll have to see how that government reconfigures itself, if it does at all. Thank you. This ambassador, former ambassador of the United States, has come to shake up the geopolitical board with his comments, with statements that border on explosive. And the thing is, Reval reveals that this fierce internal struggle for power in Venezuela happened after the power vacuum that was created when Nicolas Maduro left. They describe that Cabello controls all the intelligence, controls the colectivos, and is directly pressuring the new president. Thank you. According to what is reported, Vladimir Padrino Lopez has the military force and control of the FAA. Diosdado Cabello has control of the armed colectivos of SEBIN, Dirección General de Contrainteligencia Militar, and also intelligence structures. The Maduro Rodriguez brothers bloc is now weakened after the United States operation. According to what the former United States ambassador says, Cabello controls the armed groups, including colectivos, together with Freddy Bernal, and has veto power over any political reform or international negotiation. The former ambassador also recalls Fernando Albán, an opposition figure killed in 2018 after being thrown from a building under orders tied to Cabello, as a direct message to halt negotiations with the United States. He also emphasizes that Delcy's rise to power does not eliminate the shadow of the Chavista apparatus, and that her presidency, he says, will face internal resistance. Cabello doesn't appreciate her and won't let her move forward without his approval. So that's the issue, right? For example, this issue of reducing oil production does not seem right to Cabello. Will this only happen with his approval, or is it simply not going to happen? This former ambassador also claims that the population is not protesting right now because they are afraid of the groups that are going around within Caracas and within different cities of Venezuela. Also, an important issue would be the release of the 900 political prisoners and American citizens who, as he says, as long as they remain detained. Washington is considering that Delcy does not control the country. In other words, apparently Delcy would have given the order to release these 900 political prisoners. And they simply don't listen to him because of Cabello. Does she lack control, or does Delcy make deals with the United States and then try to enforce them here, but they ignore her? So that's also being analyzed right now. That's what is believed to be happening since the situation is chaotic. Let's move on to another important matter. Who is this person right now? I was talking about him. I was discussing this person in Yemen, who is the one causing all the chaos over there in that country, not his disappearance. Why is this separatist leader significant? Come on, understanding this would help us understand a bit of the chaos that's happening in Yemen. The disappearance of this figure, this separatist leader named Aidar Osalzubidi, who was reportedly dismissed and accused of treason after evading the peace negotiations in Saudi Arabia. Today there have been 15 airstrikes that hit the province where he is, leaving multiple people dead. Tremendous regional tension. This person should have taken a plane to Riyadh to participate in peace negotiations with the coalition led by Saudi Arabia. After his absence, after his disappearance, the Presidential Leadership Council of Yemen marked it as an official expulsion from the executive body. Thank you for watching the video. According to reports, he is said to have fled to his home province, that is where he was born, in an area called Dale in the southwest of the country, according to the Saudi coalition. That's why there were attacks to see if they could eliminate him. The United Arab Emirates supports the Southern Transitional Council, while Saudi Arabia backs the official Yemeni forces, meaning the official government. He is showing that there is a break, a separation, and obviously, well, the United Arab Emirates is now going one way, Saudi Arabia is going another way, and that's why there's this confrontation, which in some cases could cause problems between them, right? More than 100 people have lost their lives in these clashes, in these bombings, and this worsens the humanitarian situation there and the tremendous internal conflicts they also have there. Not in UDIs anymore, and we haven't even talked about UDIs lately, no? Since everything has focused on this situation, right? On what's happening there. 2. Well, officially it's now being reported that Marco Rubio would be changing the subject. No, Marco Rubio would be interested, well, not just Marco Rubio, but the whole United States would be interested. Or at least the Trump administration would be interested in buying Greenland, and this is now official according to what's being reported. Marco Rubio has already informed Congress that they want to make a proposal to buy Greenland. Let's get into the details of what's happening, but obviously, well, this has created a lot more tension between Europe, NATO, and the United States, and there's a very strong message from Donald Trump against NATO. We'll talk about that in a moment. Take a look at the following. There's a report right now from Donald Trump. It's really shocking, let's put it that way. I mean, at the very least, it's really shocking, right? Donald Trump claims that Russia would have taken all of Ukraine if it weren't for him. He says because of him, right? That's how it is. Trump takes credit for the change in NATO contributions. He says that before he arrived, member countries contributed just 2% of their gross domestic product, and he made them raise it to 5%. He considers this a personal achievement. He points out that the United States was foolishly paying for the defense of other member countries and that he corrected that dynamic. He mentions that the other leaders are his friends and that this allowed him to make changes that no one thought were possible. He claims that if he hadn't intervened as president, Russia would currently have full control of Ukraine. He says that he would have ended 8 wars during his term. And he regrets that Norway, look at what Donald Trump says in the statement, he regrets that Norway, a NATO member, did not award him the Nobel Peace Prize. So, is he still upset about this? Right. That issue also draws attention. It's not part of those frustrations, right? Here is the post that Donald Trump made on his official account. He's not very angry about it, but he keeps asking why he wasn't given his Nobel Prize. If Norway is in NATO, why didn't they give him the Nobel Prize? Basically, if he talks about having 8 homes, he states that Russia and China are not afraid of NATO without the United States, meaning that if the United States leaves, China and Russia don't care anymore. NATO. He praises his role in the military rebuilding, claiming that everyone should feel fortunate for the reconstruction of the United States Army. During his first term, he promises to continue strengthening the armed forces and maintaining the presence of the United States within NATO, even if other countries do not. For the United States, he concludes that only the United States, not NATO without it, is respected and feared by China and Russia. He finishes his post with a strong nationalist message. You get what I mean, right? The classic Make America Great Again and all that, well, signed by Donald J. Trump. That's the point in a message posted on January 27th on Truth Social, right? This also draws attention. Today, let's discuss other important matters too. At that moment, Russia reacts to the seizure of this ship, a Russian oil tanker that the United States has taken. It already says no state has the right to use force against vessels properly registered under the jurisdiction of other states. Contact has been lost with the vessel, says Russia itself. Well, that's good. Well, those are some reactions. Also, let's look at the next comment made by Marco Rubio himself, Secretary of State of the United States.
What's happening behind the scenes? Many operational details can't be shared publicly. Obviously, for those reasons, as we move forward, we will describe our process, which is a process in Venezuela as described. For them, right now, step 1 is stabilizing the country. We don't want it to descend into chaos.
Well, we have a 3-step process in Venezuela, he says. The first step is stabilizing the country, the second phase. The second phase is, he says, this quarantine, this kind of recovery, so to speak, of oil. And the third phase will be the transition. He says it later in the full comment. So right now the issue is oil, basically, making sure that they will keep sending them oil in these 3 phases. He says stabilization. We don't want them to fall into chaos. The seizure of oil, they're going to be taking the oil, they're going to be blocking any way out. Donald Trump said that not only will they deliver the 50 million barrels of oil, but they are also going to control all the output. And the sale of the oil will be controlled by the United States according to what Donald Trump says, which, well, we'll see, right? But that's what is being said about oil at this moment. And well, obviously it's tremendous, isn't it? Obviously it is. There are doubts about whether this issue can really be implemented, right? Let's move on to other important matters as well. Thank you.
Drug trafficking. For the most part, it stays in international banks, in buildings in the United States. That's where they put the illicit gold.
These are Petro's own words, he says. The profits from the drug trafficking business for the most part stay on ships, in international banks, in buildings in the United States where they put the so-called gold. Illegal gold is funneled to United States real estate companies. It doesn't reach here. So, the money generated from trafficking doesn't go directly to Colombia or to the countries where those kinds of drugs are grown? No, instead, as this Colombian president says, we are left with the dead here. No, and well, they're part, let's say, of these reactions that are happening right now on these issues, right? Meanwhile, let's move on to another important point. Over there in the United States, they're reporting, well, certain images already showing, well, some overcrowding regarding hospital issues, right? Where there's an increase happening in 45 states and doctor visits have reached the highest level in almost 30 years in the United States. The flu season has shown an unprecedented increase with the highest level of flu-related doctor visits in almost 30 years. According to official figures from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the phenomenon has mainly affected people since the last weeks of December 2025. Is the national healthcare system still under heavy pressure now, according to reports? But well, states, well, I won't mention all of them, but almost all of the United States has experienced this activity, right? I mean, yes, it has been a huge issue. Maybe it's better if I just mention the ones that haven't had such a sharp increase. Montana, South Dakota, Vermont, and West Virginia have shown moderate activity when it comes to the flu. All the other states have had a lot of activity. Thank you. During the 2025-2026 season, they have recorded more than 11 million cases of influenza, as well as at least 120,000 hospitalizations and 5,000 people who have lost their lives because of this. I mean, it is an issue that obviously draws attention at this moment, so that's part of what's happening with that topic. Let's move on to other important matters. Let's quickly go to the poll that's being conducted right here on the channel. Today, well, the poll says, who controls Venezuela? Delcy Rodriguez, Washington, Russia, China, or Iran? So far, at least with the first votes, they're just coming in. Let's go sorry to see how the votes turn out, and then we'll analyze it in a bit, right? How have you been, Beatrice? Very well, you're right, Cuba is missing from that poll. Let's add it where it says Russia, China, and Iran. We can't add it right now, but let's see who votes for it there. Let's include Cuba too, since they're in that block. Mainly Cuba, then Russia, China, and Iran. That's definitely the direction this topic is heading. This Washington Delcy Rodriguez could be as well. You know which hair, right? We could add a fourth option. I'm not sure if there is one, but Cabello could be another character trying to take control, right? Let's see how it goes. If you want, we can do another poll tonight. You know that when we do it live, it's more limited. When we do it in the community area, it gives you more options. So, well, we can add some more options too, but it would be really interesting to hear the community's opinion here. Let's quickly go to the greetings, to the comments. Obviously, how has your day been today? It's Tuesday, January 7th, a very busy, very active day. On the topic of the Middle East, obviously what happened in Atlantico, what happened a while ago, we already discussed it. We posted a video about what's been happening in that region. And it's really tough, it's intense, isn't it? And between that and the literal threat made by Lindsey Graham, Republican Democrat, the Republican senator from the United States, who sends a direct message against the Ayatollahs saying they will eliminate them if they keep attacking the population, they will go and eliminate the Ayatollahs. That's what Lindsey Graham says. And yes, that part also draws attention, and there are movements happening on the border between Iraq and Iran. From the United States, from the deltas. Not that they call it that, but anyway, let's go. Well, we're doing well, it says here. Comment from Frey Radar. What's going on over there? What's happening with Frey Radar? Let's see. Let's get Frey Radar settled. Let's see what's going on. Did you see anything interesting over there? Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna go in here to the... I imagine it's towards Venezuela, or where should we look at this menu? Gaitan, greetings, thank you. Will I be able to look it up like that? With that, like the money you have there? The plane number? I don't know what... Well, I don't know if it allows me to... No? It's similar. It is a Conviasa plane, right? The one you're talking about. What's going on? He says, okay. I can't turn to see it. Let's see. This is one, that's one, right? But is this from Conviasa or just a plane over Venezuela? There are a few right now. This is a tiny plane, a private plane. There they are. There are many planes. There's a lot of movement right now here in Caracas, huh? There's another one. Laser Airlines is what it's called. This one is from Conviasa. Could it be? It's going to Maracay. It says, plane from Moscow to Tel Aviv. Are they still evacuating? Ah, right. That one, we already talked about it. Yes, we already talked about it. Yes, we made a video about that a little while ago. We already made a video about how this movement is going. It's the third or fourth plane around there that's leaving Israel with diplomats. Yes, we already talked about that. If you can, check the report we did a little while ago. It's there, right on the channel. All the latest information is there. We uploaded this video an hour ago. The whole report is there, including about the Russian oil tanker, as well as this escape the Russians are making from Israel, taking out family members, diplomats, everyone leaving Israel. Why? That's the big question. Why are they leaving? Yes, they're evacuating Israel and Iran. By the way, they're leaving the area. They must know something, right? How have you been, Pedro? Greetings, Eliseo, and a warm hello to our viewers in Venezuela and Israel, now that I know they're watching too. I appreciate any comments you have. Mr. X, how have you been? He says hello and mentions the survey and my hair. How have you been, Mr. X? How are things going? Thank you very much for your messages. He says this comment, and what about the government of Mexico? It wouldn't surprise me if it's controlled by the Cubans or the Russians. He says, greetings, how have you been? He says he's coming from Moscow to Tel Aviv. Yes, Eliseo, he says, I'm hurt because we Hispanics are more peaceful, but with the English, North Americans, and Orthodox Jews, we're lost, he says. They can do it. For them, that commandment doesn't exist, says Eliseo. How are you, Eliseo? Greetings, Francisco Arce, and to the whole community. Alex Flores, how have you been? How are you, Jack Draper? Who else is out there? He says, are you there? He says, damn, Pepe, my Iranian neighbor fled Iran at 18 and no longer practices any religion due to what happened there. Most of his family were gunned down. That's tough, Francisco Arce, really tough. It's shocking to see images now of Iranians burning the Quran. Iranians, well, they're not just upset about politics anymore, but with religion itself. I mean, they're extremely fed up. Carlos Martinez, how have you been, Tibal? Great to see you. Greetings. Alex Flores, please no insults. Yes. Let's do it with constructive criticism. In any case, criticism. But yes, trying to respect here the points that we set here in the community, right? Greetings, very good. Plato was a pagan and criticized polytheism in Greece and promoted philosophical monotheism, the closest thing to Christianity among the pagans. I'm not going to check Jose. I haven't checked that point or know what it's about, but greetings to you, Jose. Greetings from northern Spain. How have you been? Greetings to Asturias. Very good. Beatriz Alvarez. How are you, Jose? He says wars in the Middle East will never end due to religious differences. Jose, how have you been? Greetings. Very good to the goat. How have you been? Hello, the GOAT. Great to see you. Let's move on to some other information for a bit. Let's go now with Jiris. We're going to be talking about different topics, about what's happening in the world, and we'll keep the conversation going. Have an excellent day. We'll be back later with other reports. Thank you very much. See you soon. We interrupt your regular programming. Thank you for tuning in to The Truth. This is PP Live.
The truth is intense, pure. The unusual is real, pure. Here we analyze it. Global focus. Don't stay out. Connect to the PP Live channel, controlling the PP signal and Astra telling it like it is. Raw journalism. Respect is given here. Turn on the alert. Don't lose track until next time. Yes, sir, we're taking attendance. Subscribe. Live.